Welcome back to the bench. We're going to finish taking care of the Ovation here. What we did the other day is we cleaned the fretboard, we polished the frets, and talked about a couple of different things that we wanted to do, and that took the better part of a half hour because the neck was actually disgusting. So I did do a couple things in the short term, and I'm going to move us to the overhead camera and just keep talking about that. So what I did figure out how to get those strings out, and I got a lot of good suggestions from you guys in the comments, so thank you for that. What I ended up doing though off camera, because I got so frustrated with it not coming out, I had a very tiny Allen wrench that I could fit right behind the ball, and just a couple taps with the soft hammer gently, because I did not want to tear anything else out of the back of the bridge, and they're free. And so while I was at it, I did put a little bit of the Dunlop fretboard or Ultimate Lemon Oil. It says fretboard oil, but it's on the wood just to clean it up a little bit. So did that. Today we are going to wax that. We're going to wax the fretboard. We are going to clean all the lacquer or the finished parts of the guitar because we did the back of the bowl. And I'm also going to start by trying just to polish up the tuners a little bit, and I'll move you over there. Excellent camera setup. All right. So I don't know if you can see it real well, but these tuners aren't in bad shape. I was going to look at lubing them, but they are all turning very smoothly, which is good. Nothing's loose. And as far as the tuning pegs go, a little bit of wobble, but not bad. This is nothing I really want to replace because I'd like to keep the guitar all original just because it's kind of sentimental to me, and it holds tune well once it is strung up, new strings notwithstanding. That being said, I've always been a kind of D'Addario guy, but I did see these Ernie Ball earthwood, excuse me, used by a couple people, and I thought I'd give these a shot. These are the standard gauge that I keep on here as well, so we'll see how these go. And you know what? I can always switch back to D'Addario's down the road. So first things first, I'm going to take a little bit of the Sprayway non-ammonia, which means it won't hurt the finish, and try and scrub off those tuners just a little bit and see what I can do with those. However, even though it won't hurt the finish, I don't want to spray it all over it. I'd rather do a little bit. So what I've got here is a little bowl. I'm going to concentrate some of this in there and use my toothbrush to try and polish those up a little bit. I'd say polish, but we'll clean them so they don't look quite as grungy. So we'll see how that goes. That's getting all over the headstock anyways. I could have just sprayed it, I guess. But I'm hoping the soft bristles along with the glass cleaner will help restore a little bit of the metal brightness to them, and I'm going to get the tuning knobs as well as the back of the tuners. I'm sure there's something better I could use for this, and if anybody has any suggestions for that down the road, I'd be willing to take it. As always, like I said last time, I'm learning every little bit of this, doing my damnedest not to do anything that's going to damage my guitars, but as I said, I'm not a professional. Thanks, Ted. But these are my guitars, so I'm not as worried about it as if I were working on somebody else's, in which case I probably would reach out to all of you before even attempting anything to ask a few questions. Let's go ahead, dry those off. And then we can flip it over and we'll start working on the back. I wanted to do this first because then I'm going to clean the back of the neck as well, instead of cleaning the face of the guitar and then leaning it face down on my work mat here. All right, so we have the original tuners on there, pretty standard looking tuners, not lockers or anything. Don't see a lot of acoustics with lockers on them. Maybe you do now. There's a few scratches, dents, and dings here, but like I said, I've had this for 40-ish years, almost 40 years. So let's get a little more of our sprayway on the brush. Maybe we'll throw this towel under there so I don't drip stuff all over. So just to put a timestamp on this, as soon as I finish up here, well, not as soon as, hopefully I finish up and have a little time to relax, I will be joining Ubi at his Monday night 8 o'clock stream. And I will link his channel down below. If you don't know who the Ubi is, then you're one of the few random subscribers I have that he doesn't already, but that's fine. You should go check out his channel regardless. If you're just stopping by the channel and aren't a subscriber or don't even know what our little corner of the YouTube universe is, you should check out his channel. He does a lot of very interactive, very fun lives, and a tech talk on Tuesday as well as just being a really stand-up guy. All right. That actually does look like it did something. Maybe just because they're wet. But oh, here. We'll get in there because it's going to be hard to get in there with a paper towel. That's the only part that I'll scrub. I'll get the... And then we're going to be using this stuff, which actually is the stuff that came with the Dunlop kit. But the spray bottle for the Dunlop kit had a bad sprayer. So dollar store to the rescue. That's perfect for this kind of stuff. Or if you mix up your own kind of cleaning solutions for different things, dollar store is a great resource for that. You can leave it in the comments, I guess, if you guys, what do you guys all do for Thanksgiving? I hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. We spend time with my wife's extended family, go to their house, do the annual eating of too much food, and spend time with all their doggos and all of our extended family and nieces and nephews and kids. It's a good time. And then I know a few of the channels that I follow are going to be doing things later on Thanksgiving night. So depending on when we get home, I plan to make a day of it, even though I have to go back to work on Friday. Since we're here with the neck and I already cleaned this off a little bit, I'm going to spray a little bit of the spray away on the paper towel and just get the back of the neck. I'm going to use the other stuff on it because that's an actual polish, but I want to get, like I saw with the neck, the fretboard, just so much grime. I want to see if we have anything here that just needs to be lifted off before I would put polish on it, because this stuff will hopefully pick some stuff up. Yeah, there's a little ding there. Let's move you guys back over here so you can see the neck a little better. Positioning is not that great. I promise I'm going to be working on that as I get some camera mounts and stuff, but we do have a little nick there. You can kind of see, I can feel it. It's in the surface. I might have to look into maybe some of those furniture pens that Baby Boy Mulligan, Tim, over at his channel. I'll link that too, because why not? He's another guy that does a lot of work on guitars, and he also works with veterans organizations because he himself is a vet and is in fact getting a guitar ready to give away to a vet as well, which I think is fantastic. And you should check out his channel as well. He has original music, gear demos, as well as just I think I have a lot of guitars. I definitely think Tim's got me beat. Instead of spraying this directly on, I'm going to move the strings out of the way here too so we don't knock stuff over. Very, very limited space. Oh, yeah, forgot the one other thing I did too. I'll put up a picture of what the ToneBar did look like originally, and I'll show you why I've bent it into this shape when we get to the point where we try it for hanging onto the strings. All right, back to polishing. I figured this would be better than getting it all over everything. And like I said, I don't think that this is going to be exceptionally different looking, because the back of the neck, I always did keep everything dusted off. It was the fretboard that really picked up everything from my filthy hands. Let's flip this over again. Now we are back on that side. I still have a little here, so we're gonna get the top of the headstock because I already cleaned that off with Sprayway. Back to the Sprayway towel. There were a couple spots on the body, and I'm gonna reposition so you guys can see what I'm doing. A couple spots on the body, get the bottle out of the way. A few areas along the edge look like maybe there's just some extra funk on them, fingerprints. There's also a couple areas where I think it is, yeah, looks like a scratch in the surface. And spray a little more. That's the polish towel. This is the spray away towel. Get a little more on here so we can just clean up the top of this. I gotta say, for not getting as much attention as I probably should have, the guitar still looks pretty decent. I'm just pretty happy with how it's turning out. A little bit of elbow grease in here. Really hard with this bowl and it rocking back and forth, and I'm probably going to end up with fingerprints on it almost immediately after stringing it up, but life of a guitar owner slash player, right? The binding on this is almost a cream color, and I can't tell, I don't remember, honestly, if this was more of a white when I first had it, and this is aged, or if it's just aged really well and it was always this kind of cream color. I'd have to, and the sound hole seems like it has binding in it too. That's nice. All right. Hello, Butter is behind me making noise. Hopefully the mic's not picking that up either. Okay, so we have cleaned the top, we have cleaned the tuners, we have polished everything. The next step, what this last towel is for, and you guys can tell me if I don't need to do this or if I'm doing something that's unnecessary, but I had read up that instead of like the lemon oil, the fretboard oil was more for cleaning, and I'm going to be using some Howard's Feed and Wax. Thank you for my friend Ted. And as I'm looking at this, let's be looking at the neck. So this stuff, I understand a little bit goes a long way, is what I've been told. Ugh. Right, I'm just going to put a real little bit on the towel here. Boogery looking stuff, but and see if we can't rub a little bit. Well, since I'm starting at the bridge, here you go, guys. This is not going to be long before I tip this thing over, especially as I start using more and more of the towels. The ring light with a phone holder in it that's wall mountable that I want to get around the bridge. Let that sit, and then I'll use the corner of the towel that doesn't have stuff on it to wipe it off in just a little bit. Trying to think if I take something with this towel and the wax, like a paper clip. Let's see if I can't get down in there and make that look a little better too. Oh yeah, it can. Good. Even if it just gets a little bit of the dust out of there, that's fine. And which I should have gotten before, but like I said, old house, rabbit, creatures. Clean that up. Ooh, I like the way that looks. Very nice. All right. While we're looking at the bridge, just a quick talk about the ToneBar. This originally was bent at like a 90-degree angle on one end and was flat and then in the middle because it's supposed to be pulled up to the underside of a bridge inside the sound hole. That's not how this guitar strings up. And with a finish like this back there, finish towel back there, I did not want any sharp edges sticking out. My hope is that when we put the strings on and string this up, that I bent it to shape to the bridge. I am hoping that there is going to be enough tension on the strings to keep it there, and that the ball ends won't be just hanging loose so that this flies right out. That's a distinct possibility. If that's the case, then I might have to revisit this down the road and clip a couple of centimeters off each end of it to see if it'll fit inside. There is a slight channel on the back of this bridge. I'll put up a picture of that in the full, it'll be on the side here somewhere. So you can see the channel, and hopefully then that would work. I'm just hoping this works as is, so we'll give it a shot. Anyways, back to the Feed and Wax. I'm going to tip you over here so we can look at the bridge again. Get the wax out of the way. And we'll get this so I don't have any giant globs that are going to go, because the idea is just gently put a little on there. and then I'll come back with the clean side. I am going to have to wash my hands. The neck actually looks really nice now, feels really nice, so I don't know that this is necessary, but I wanted to see if I could put another protective layer over it. And just from what I've read about people that use this on the back of necks, especially if it's more of a bare wood type neck, it actually makes the neck feel very smooth and soft, which is something I'm interested in. I would like this to be as nice to play as I remember. All right, that's the wax side. I'm going to take the spray away towel, kind of clean my hands off a little bit, and we are almost ready to string her back up. Ooh, that feels nice. A little bit of one more pass with the paper towel, and we'll get a little bit of Tune It. This is Music Nomad Tune It for every string change. And yeah, we'll get the giggles out of the way. It's basically nut lube. So I'm going to take the tube. I've got the little applicators, and I'm going to apply some of this in here, because that was one thing I did notice before we took the strings off. I was getting a little bit of the ping, 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 and I think that is the nut complaining, number one, about being dirty. Number two, we'll see how the lubrication does. I really don't want to cut this nut or have to replace it. And by the way, this feels somewhat plasticky. I don't know if that was a thing with Ovations, just like the back of the guitar, but it definitely does not feel like bone. And I think this was created well before we had graphite or Graph-Tech nuts. There's that word again. All right, we have lubrication in the nut slots. And I'm going to put this away, put it back in its baggie, which is where I keep it, because God forbid anything would explode, but also I don't want to lose these things. And we will start pulling out the strings. This is going to be a little bit different for stringing them up, because usually it's just one string through, maybe another string on the other side, and then start tightening them. I have to string the ball ends of all 6 strings through the tone bar. Go back here. Yeah, 54, 44, 24, wound, and 12. Okay, so we've got the low E is going to be on that side. I think, yeah, that's the top. So I need to put these in reverse order. I'm keeping the towel back here because I don't want the tone bar flopping around to potentially add any additional scratches other than what it's earned from being played. Hey, Butter. 1 earthwood 12 gauge string. Whoop. There we go. And we will slide this through the ball end. I am going to try not to let these escape, because I have a feeling this is going to be a little bit tricky getting these. Actually, let's put this one through the hole so that if something does get knocked, it shouldn't escape all the way to the floor. Always a little tricky getting those. All right, there's one. These were out of order. 16 comes next. 24 would be the next highest one. That was confusing for me to look at. And that one's going to be a wound string. Get our 16. While we're talking about the strings, I still have the old set wound up waiting here. Have any of you guys done the Diodario string recycling program, where if you're a Players Circle member, you return so many strings, and based on weight, they will give you points? Is it worth the trouble, or is it just as easy just to recycle them in your recycling because they are metal? Curious to know. Um, I'm gonna save up the next few string changes and send them in and just see. So if nobody knows, I'll try and report back maybe in one of my channel chats. Okay, this does not want to go up. We're gonna give it a little bend to see if I can help it get up through the channel. There we go. Bet you guys didn't think a string change would be this challenging, did you? No, look at that. It's gonna try and fall off the other end. Get over here. All right, 2 down. And I'm probably going to tighten up the low E and the high E first, just to get a little tension on that bar, and then we can work on the rest. All right. Next string. And these are, according to the packaging, these are just phosphor bronze guitar strings, which they aren't coated or anything. I've tried coated strings like the elixirs on my acoustic. I didn't really care for it. I thought the coating made them seem kind of dead. I do coated strings on my electrics though. I do like the Diodario. They're the high end ones, the coated ones. I also like the Ernie Ball Cobalts on my electrics for some reason. It doesn't bother me. But on the acoustic, I don't feel like they ring out as well. So I've always kind of preferred just your standard phosphor bronze. I know they don't necessarily last as long, but I think if you take care of your guitar, and it's not like I'm gigging, so it's not going to be getting constant use. I think they sound just a little brighter, which is kind of the sound I like from my guitar. That doesn't seem too bad. I know Jayce Allan, speaking of Jayce Allan, thanks for the ToneBar again. His link will be in the channel again since we're actually installing it here. And I'll include the link to his video again in case you missed the first video where I linked it, where he did an actual demo for how this is supposed to be used. We're going off label here, kind of like using medications for a different need than you would. This is just to see if I can avoid having to source an Ovation bridge and figure out how to replace it myself. A guitar that's going to stay with me forever, well, or a member of my family after that, because it is special to me in that this is, I said it in the review of it, this is one that was bought for me by my parents, and with both of them being gone, I kind of treasure that. So all the balls are hooked. I am going to carefully pull all the strings to try and get this up to the bridge and see if we can space them properly. This needs to be over here a little bit more. So, and what this is definitely doing is making the string change more difficult, which was one of Jayce Allan's findings. But if it does save the bridge, I've got to get this centered and then get the strings in the right place as we pull it up. Little bit over. Let's get over there. Well, I don't know, guys. I think that's going to work. Those don't seem like they're going to go anywhere. So hopefully that ToneBar just doesn't decide with vibrations of playing that it's going to nope right on out of there. All right. Let's go back up to the headstock, and I will start putting the strings back on. I just need to make sure I've got this set the right way. Yes, it is. All right. So I typically, and I've even got it pointing the right way. That was lucky. I typically have poor eyesight and can't hit the hole. Come on. All right. Usually pull them through as tight as you can finger-wise, and then pull it back. I've seen some people say 1 fret or 2 frets. I usually do about 1.5. And then I bend the string up so it'll help me. And we're going to see if I can get this to wind properly. Probably going to, yep. So I think this is my first experience with a string winder. Not doing exactly what I wanted, so I'm going to get the first loop around. Yeah, that's loose. Don't want that. Get the first loop around and see if we can't get this to cooperate. Get up there. I may not have pulled the small string back enough, so we may end up with a little more than I want, but that did not go as smoothly as I wanted, but we can correct it, and then as it tightens up, it'll line up properly. All right, let's get the low E on so that we can spread the tension across the tone bar. Strings out of the way. And this is probably why I'm not a guitar tech. All right. Get under there, under there. I think I have too much string. Little bit. It's not the worst, but I would prefer to have at least one less wrap around. Something to remember for next time. Again, anybody has any better ideas about how I can be doing this, that would be fantastic. All right, now let's just go up each side and get the rest of these. At some point, I am probably going to cut until we get to the last two strings out of here because there's no need for you to watch this over and over again. I promise that I am actually better at stringing a guitar than this because I have 16 of them. So yeah, we do have a little bit of a bump out here. Come on, there we go. All right, let me grab a tuner quick. And we'll just put up, oop, it definitely has got enough tension under there. I'm going to have to, well, note to self, I'm going to have to get some tweezers out and gently pull out the towel that I was using to protect my finish. I don't know if you can see that. There's little pieces of towel now caught in the tone bar, but that tone bar is not going anywhere. So that is at least doing what I was going to ask of it. So hopefully this helps protect the bridge. I will watch it to see if it starts pulling and lifting the bridge up. Can we get at least two chords out? It's probably not coming through on the mic because I have noise sensors. So we will get to the demo. I will spend some time stretching these strings, which will be a few hours for me. It'll be a few seconds for you guys. All right, guys, since you saw me last, I have spent some time getting the strings to stretch a little bit. They still have a little more to do, but they should hang in tune long enough to do a sound demo again for you guys so you can see how everything sounds with all the work we did. I will say everything feels so much better. The years of grime on the fingerboard did affect tone, obviously, and did affect playability. The dirty frets affected playability, and so I would like to thank all the folks online that I do watch that basically inspired me to start doing this stuff for my own guitars. It was one thing just to, wipe them down, clean them off, change the strings when you're supposed to, but to know that there's other things to do. This is all stuff I didn't know when I first started playing guitars. Like I said, when I was working on them, back in the day when we first started doing number one, we didn't have good budget gear like we've got now. Number two, we were even terrified to even touch the truss rod. We were told, oh, you're going to wreck your guitar. That's true to some degree. If you start like wrenching over and over or put a power drill on a truss rod, yeah, you're gonna wreck something. Small adjustments isn't anything you can't undo. So anyhow, So besides playing it, I did manage to get most of the blue cloth out of there. I didn't want to loosen it up too much and have that tone bar come loose, but that is doing exactly what I had hoped and intended for, and it is keeping the bridge intact. So I'm hoping that that little odd looking add-on I can live with. If it preserves my guitar for the rest of my life, I will be very happy with it. So let me try and recreate some of what I did on the first video, and I'll include the link to that down below as well. Okay, that being aside, I don't think the tone bar affected anything as far as the tone. Could just be that the tone bar doesn't do anything. Like I said, watch Jayce's video where he actually uses it the way it is intended for the type of guitar it's intended for, and you can make your own decision. For me, it's it's an off-label prescription to save my bridge. So here's the finger picking that I did last time too. Hopefully we can not mess it up. Wish me luck. All right, not completely error-free, but I did manage to nail that landing a little better. It just, the new strings feel better, period. But having the neck cleaned, conditioned, it just makes a world of difference. So that is the kind of maintenance that I'm going to keep up on as the years go on now. I might revisit this in the future just to see if I can adjust the action a little bit. But honestly, it's what I'm used to with this guitar, so if it were going to somebody else that wanted it to be set up, I'm used to it this way, so it's how I like it. I'm very happy with it. Dang it. That is a song that I still need to learn the entire way through, and it's deceptively difficult, at least for me. I know folks that can play it, but that's enough for tonight. I'm just going to close it out and just thank everybody for inspiring me to get into doing my own work on my guitars. Thank everybody who's been watching the videos with me, and I want to wish everybody, because at the time of this coming out, Thanksgiving will be tomorrow. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. That is, if they're in the States. If you're elsewhere, I just hope you have a happy Thursday then. But I hope everybody has a good time with their families. And until the next time, thanks, guys.